What's up, everybody? Another wonderful Monday night at Chewin the BBQ Fat. I love Monday nights. I love being able to talk with y'all. I love talking barbecue. After last week's show about chicken, man, I tell you what, it got me all fired up, ready to cook again. Hope you are too. Just got back from baseball. Imagine that. Just walked in the door, and here we go. But another fun show tonight. We liked the chicken round table last week, so we're rolling tonight with the rib round table. So going to be a good show. Looking forward to it. Hope you are too. But real quick, I want to talk about some of the things we've got going on. The Atlanta Barbecue Store Classic is up and running. It is on the website, on the Atlanta Barbecue Store's website. So please get signed up. It's already starting to. We're already getting people come in. It's pretty awesome. Going to be a great time, great contest. But if you will, share the page, like the page. Let's get this out there to as many people as possible. And it's going to be a great night. Other things, some of our teams, I tell you what, Chuck and Carrie East are still killing it down there in the GBA. They won again. Our Kcbs teams, they all rocked it. Paul, after all that trim work y'all saw Paul do last week, he granded one of the Virginia contest. So great job, Paul. Proud of you. That was really awesome. But anyway, it's going to be a great night. Ellen's birthday was yesterday, so hopefully you were able to get in on that. The giveaways or whatever she had going on last week. It was a lot of fun. So she's just getting younger and younger by the day, as she would tell us. So I'm very excited. She's staring me down right now, like, shut up. She's 21 again. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started tonight. If you got any questions, feel free to ask. We'll get rolling. And let's start it out. I tell you what, I got some great friends coming on tonight, and I've got to start by bringing on my buddy. Hey, Robert.
Hey, buddy, how you doing?
I'm good, man. I just love these nights. It's like the original Chewin the BBQ Fat days. Good times.
Without an agenda, though.
Without an agenda. Imagine that. No agenda. But we're going to make it through. We've got a big show tonight. We're going to talk ribs, right?
We are.
Yep. It's going to be great. I'm going to go ahead and bring some other guys up here, Robert. I know you enjoy this.
Bring those on now.
I know you enjoyed just me and you being on here together, but we're going to bring on the other guests too. So we got Bill Triple H coming on. How you doing, Bill?
Good. How are you?
Good. Last I talked to you, you were hauling corn to St. Louis. I'm glad to see you made it back.
Yep.
Awesome. And we got my man, Chiles. How you doing, Chiles?
Doing great, sir. Hi, guys.
Hey, this is awesome. What a great group of people we have on here tonight to talk ribs. Like I say, if you can, go ahead and like the page, share the page, get it out there to as many people as possible. So last week, if any of y'all watched, we had a chicken roundtable, and we talked a lot about chicken and all the wonderful things of chicken and what that was all entailed. And tonight we're going to just change it up a little bit, and we're going to stick right in here with the ribs. But before we get any farther in that, Chiles, you are Kcbs. You're on the board. You are really pushing. J-Cup is really starting to take off, or people are starting to know about it. A lot of great feedback that I've heard. You want to give a little quick update on that, where we are?
Sure. To date, we've had, when I checked it on Sunday, yesterday anyway, we've had almost 700 judges, individual judges, complete the J-Cup program.
Wow.
836 total test takers, and that includes the beta program. The judges that took it as part of the beta program, there wasn't enough change. So if they took it and passed it in the beta program, they were able to keep their certification and move forward. So even this past weekend, I had more than one judge come up, and judges I've never met before shake my hand and say, hey, we didn't know what to think about this at first, but they thanked us for putting it together, and they just thought that it was really insightful. For judges that haven't been out in the field in a while, like if they took a break from COVID, it was nice to get a refresher. For new judges, where there are some things that in their in our training that we didn't bridge some, we didn't define things maybe clearly enough. And as we mentioned in the Jacob series, over our 35-year history and 30 years of doing training, things have changed. So all of that came together, and now for this year, we're taking everything that we put into the Jacob, and we've already put all the important stuff into the current class, so new judges don't have to be exposed to it for the first time after they take a judging class. But we're going to start going deeper into that, and it's all about judging procedures. I don't want to call them rules because they're not really that. We do have established procedures, and it is going to we're already on the top in the barbecue sports world as far as our training and the level of education that our judges have, but this is just going to push us one notch higher.
That is awesome. Really cool. Sorry about that. We were not on Facebook Live. We were just on YouTube Live. So I just got it going here on Facebook. So I just got your message, Robert. Yes, and I was trying to figure that out. So yes, we are on Facebook Live now, and we're talking ribs. So sorry. What's up, Brent? I'm glad you found us on YouTube, though. That's pretty awesome. So now go ahead and like that page and share the page and get it out there. Thank you, Robert, for being so astute and figuring out what's going on. So when you say there's 700 people already signed up, I don't know.
Taken and passed.
Taken and passed. Okay.
Yeah.
How many judges are in Kcbs?
I'm going to take a guess right now.
Okay.
As far as active. I mean, I'm going to guess that there's at least 10,000. There's probably more than that. I don't know how many people just have memberships, but going just based on judges, a rough number would probably be close to 10,000. And based on some of the numbers I've seen, I'm thinking that there's probably about 4,000 that are active out there judging on a regular basis. Do not quote me on those. That is going on a high level without me pulling a report because it changed a lot. What we had in 2019 versus going into COVID in 2020, and now coming back out of that, the numbers are climbing back up again. When I say they're climbing, George DeMartz from Twisted Pear had a judging class in North Carolina recently, 70 judges.
Wow.
And the number of judging classes the requests that we've been approving in the office has been, I bet we've already approved more than we probably had all of last year. So it's really picking back up.
I really feel like there's been a positive turn in barbecue contests and everything so far this year. I'm hoping it continues to go that way. A lot of contests are filling up relatively quickly. And like you say, the judges seem to be excited about some of the new things going on. But really good. What have y'all seen, Bill and Robert? Have y'all seen anything else out there?
I mean, I think we've got a lot of teams at the ones I've been to. I don't know that they've all been full, but they've been really close. So,
yeah, I think it's going to wind up being sort of the same we had when we were busy. Some of those filled up and some didn't. So,
yeah,
I know in our area, especially in the state of Alabama, we don't have as many pro teams. So, where back in the day we had a lot, not anymore.
Well, I saw you posted something the other day, Robert, about another. I don't know if it was a contest coming back or I think it was Decatur. Maybe you posted. I don't know.
Yeah, Decatur River Fest. It's not called Decatur River Fest anymore. I think it's called Smoke and Sizzle now, but it's the same site as River Fest used to be.
Great.
I guess the only negative is it's like the weekend before the Royal, so that might hurt them a little bit with getting teams. But who knows? We'll see.
Well, there's some people like me out there that don't get to go.
Yeah, right.
That don't win.
We got plenty of time.
Chiles, Paul said that 60% of the judges at St. Robert's were Jacob this weekend.
60%? Well, okay. So a little, that's good. That's great to know. We changed our strategy when we rolled out the JSSP or the state program. We rolled it out, like starting with lifetime members, then family lifetime, then master CBJs. And we had a strategy. We couldn't release it all at once because we didn't want to crush our system. right? The last thing we wanted to do was, if y'all remember Sam's Club, when we used to register for that and everybody would rush in at the same time, and things got a little slow. So we did a phased release. I guess it was about 3 weeks ago that Emily, Amy in the office, and I sat down and talked. And I said, you know what? I said, let's keep with that rollout strategy. But, all the contests where the judges are registering through the Kcbs system with the organizers, if we already know who's going to be judging, let's send them the invites and let's get them out first. Like I said, if we have 10,000 judges that are out there, 4,000 being active, just as an estimate, the ones that are out there for the month of March, let's go ahead and get them their invites and get them in. So I would say 60% makes me very happy.
That's awesome. That's great. Robert,
that's a good number.
We talked about it a little bit and how exciting that is that it's going on. And I think that's a big deal. It's just whatever. I think it's a good thing. Judging class in Brookhaven, April 2nd, Mississippi. DeWiggins. We love some Triple H also. Bill is awesome. Sorry, I'm sure I butchered your name. But anyway, yeah, we do love some. He said the other 40% were at my table day 2. Too funny. That's what Paul said. What's up, Chuck? So, Bill, tell us a little bit about what you've got going. Well, you know what? I did a terrible job of letting y'all introduce yourselves. So why don't y'all go ahead and introduce yourselves and tell them what you do and how awesome you are in cooking ribs. Bill?
Oh, sorry. I didn't know I was supposed to start. Robert's on top. And I was told we were doing brisket. I don't know. I missed that.
That's what I thought. I thought we were doing brisket tonight.
Hey, we can turn it. No agenda, Robert. You know how I am. I'm by the seat of my pants.
All right. Go ahead, Bill.
I'm Bill from Triple H. I'm not sure what else you want to know, but we cook ribs.
All right. That's what I'm talking about. Are you doing okay in ribs this year?
So far, I think Chiles got ahead of me in the chase this weekend since he had 3 shots at it. So
that's the only thing I'm ahead of you in, right?
Maybe. I didn't look at them all very close, but anyway, so we're doing pretty well. I think we might still be sitting number 1 overall in the team of the year for.
Yeah, I think you are.
But anyway,
don't get too excited about it, Bill. It's okay.
Well, it's a long season. There's a lot of guys who haven't started cooking yet, or just getting started, and we've got 9 in. So that when we hit the 10, it will start changing quickly.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Isn't it kind of funny how that goes on? Robert, anybody know you?
Hey, I'm Robert. Smoke Me Silly. Been cooking for way too long, since 2011. Some years we've been good in ribs. Some years not so good. We've been doing better towards the end of last year, and we've been doing pretty good this year. We got a 180 at the Kcbs championship in Oklahoma, and we've been doing a little bit better. So and we're in the, like Bill said, it's too early in the year, but I know we're in the top 10 somewhere in ribs right now. So hopefully we can continue that, but we'll see.
Awesome. Chiles?
I'm Chiles Cridlin with Wolf's Revenge Barbecue. I've been my first Kcbs contest was probably about 2008. Didn't start taking it seriously until about 2012. I had a lot of good parties at contests between 2008 and 2012. Ribs is probably my number 1 nemesis category. It has it has cost me more GCs than I care to count. And I really appreciate my friends that like to point that out to me on a regular basis because they're good at that. They're very good at doing that. I'm also on the Kcbs board of directors and the CBJ chair. So I love cooking barbecue, and the only thing better than cooking it is feeding people, especially judges.
There you go. Awesome. So let's get right into it. Let's get right into cooking talk about cooking ribs. Start with before I get going, Jordan wants to know, Bill, are you going to Tennessee this weekend?
I don't know yet. I mentioned it to Andrea and she kind of gave me a look, so I'm not sure if I can talk her into it or not.
Sorry, Jordan. He's trying to come down and hang out with you and Robert, but I don't know. All right. So what do you, Robert, what do you cook on?
I cook on an offset stick burner. It's sort of like a Jambo,
Okay.
but it's a Champion grill and smoker made out of Knoxville.
Okay. Bill?
Gateway drum smokers.
Okay. And when I'm asking this, I'm asking your ribs in particular. And Chiles, what do you cook on?
I've got a homemade cabinet smoker. It is closer to an Old Hickory CTO, except it's got a rotisserie in it.
Okay. So once again, I love this. 3 different amazing rib cooks, 3 different ways of cooking, 3 different styles. So please go ahead and ask your questions right along with this. And then the next question would be, what type of ribs are you cooking?
Compart.
Compart, Smithfield,
And Compart.
Compart, Smithfield. Yep. I was wondering, Charles, when you had your hat on, I didn't know if that was like a dead giveaway or what, but Now, are you doing the Smithfield if you want to answer?
No, I'll answer. Hands down, if I can get my hands on an extra tender, it is, and I'm going to quote, I think it was Darren Worth that might have said this and got back to me. Cooking the extra tenders is like cooking with training wheels. The trick to them is that they've got a sweet spot. If you let them sit in the refrigerator for a week too long and they start to, look a little, flimsy, that's not the rib I would take to a competition. But if you get them when Walmart puts them out on the shelf, however they do their distribution, the ribs, I'm trying to remember where I got, we came in on Friday night. We got a top 10 call. I'm trying to remember what it was. Somebody might be able to look it up. But I literally on Friday morning before the contest, Chris and I drove to Walmart and I said, they put the ribs out first thing in the morning. Let's just go see what they got. I paid $11 for a rack of ribs and I got a call with them. And I chose those because I knew I wasn't going to have a chance to inject them. And it was just, we had to get to the contest and get set up and get to cooking. So that's going to be my first reach. Smithfield also has an exclusive contract with Walmart. It's the only place you can buy them. So you always have to wonder year after year if Walmart's not going to renew that contract, are they going to be available? So I try not to cook them on they're not my go-to when I know just the regular Smithfield Black Label. Those are the ones that I'm going to cook because those are the ones that I know that I'm going to be able to get year after year after year.
Nice. I did not know that. So I didn't know you. Okay, good. And Robert and Bill, how long have y'all been cooking Compart?
I'm not sure. It's been a while.
Okay.
Probably 4 years.
Okay. Long time.
Yeah, it seems like I don't know. I've been cooking Compart for a long time.
I think you've been cooking Compart since I've known you, Robert.
Yeah, it's been a while.
So when I first started, we were doing the ETs, and then we went on to Compart, and we've tried some others and just keep coming back because it won't. We can't get the same results. So
there you go. Charles, it sounds like you got 5th on Friday night.
5th? Okay.
So Will J say I see a 5th Friday night on here.
Okay. He'll keep me honest. He corrects me more often than not.
All right. So you hit up a question. I mean, and like I say, I want y'all to ask questions also. I kind of want it to be more of I don't want to necessarily be the moderator the whole time, but I probably will be. But if you can, please ask each other questions. Charles, you brought up something saying that you didn't have time to inject. So is that something that you're doing normally, is injecting ribs, or do you not inject ribs?
I do inject my ribs.
You do?
I absolutely do. It's one of those things that, if you do it right, I think ribs are easy to over inject. So it's my pork injection. I just dial back all the amounts. It's not as hot, I guess, if you will, compared to my pork injection with phosphates. But it adds flavor to it. It helps retain moisture. Everything in moderation.
Very interesting. Okay, I see you two shaking your head. So, what are y'all's thoughts on injection, Bill?
Got to do it.
Got to do it. Or do you plump them up like hot dogs, or do you just go?
They get a fair amount, but I wouldn't quite plump them up like hot dogs. Not as much as I've seen others do. like in the class this year. But yeah, we put a fair amount in them.
Robert.
Yeah,
I've been injecting for a while. I want to say it's about 4 or 5 years ago when we started. We're doing okay, and I said, you know what, Lex? I forget who I heard was injecting the ribs, and I said, let's use our pork injection and try injecting these ribs. And we got a first place right. It was at Riverfest here in Decatur. So we've been injecting ribs ever since.
And I take it, Chiles, you said you run something similar to your pork. Are y'all running a similar pork injection to your pork injection on ribs, or is it a completely different injection?
mine's completely different.
Okay.
I mean, it's got some of the same ingredients, but it's quite a bit different.
Yeah, mine's all the same ingredients. I just cut back the percentages. I'm also not as injecting them as much. I like to inject in through the bone. And when I do, I'm injecting just enough to see those bones start to spread apart. That tells me I've got enough in there, and any more would probably be wasteful. So it's a procedure that I've just settled on after many years of doing it.
Nice. Same thing, Robert?
I'm probably going back to that term you use, hot dog in it. That's probably what I'm doing.
Okay.
I put quite a bit in there, so.
There you go. See, once again, completely different. How many times do y'all try to, not necessarily practice, because I know you awesome cooks don't have to practice that often, but how often are you trying something new, or how long did it take you to find that sweet spot on the amount of injection that you put in? Robert, since you inject the most.
I don't know. I think we've varied on what we've done. It just seems like the more injection we've been putting in lately seems to work a little bit better.
Okay.
I can't explain why. I know we sort of cut back a little bit a couple of years ago, and then we weren't hitting as much. And then I think I went to your class this year, and I believe whoever taught ribs, I think he had excess out in the pan, and he re-injected again in the morning. So, yeah. So I think we started injecting a little bit more, and we started to do a little better.
Yeah, that was very interesting. That was very, very good topic there. That so it's all whatever you want to do. And then there's other people that don't inject at all. I don't know.
I think your cooking style. I think your cooking style has a lot to do with whether you need to inject or not. The hotter you're running them, the more injection I think you need.
So explain that a little bit to people that don't necessarily understand what you're talking about there, Bill. When you say your cooking style, you talking about low and slow to hot and fast? You talking about
right? Whether you're cooking low and slow or hot and fast, if you're, Chiles, I don't know what you're running, but with a cooker like that, you may possibly be running a lower temperature than like what we are on the drums. Hitting them at 300, 325.
I run them at 300.
Okay, so, but if you're cooking low and slow, you can probably get by without the injection, I think, versus when you're hitting them hard, it's more important, in my opinion.
I agree that they're more forgiving cooking at a lower temperature.
Robert?
But I think with a lot of these ribs we're cooking, I don't know, with the extra tender nowadays, if you're cooking a rib with a lot of fat in it anyway, especially with the comparts, we're not really injecting. I don't think we're injecting for moisture. We're more injecting for that extra flavor, maybe. I don't know. That's the way I look at it. Same thing with I know we're not talking pork, but with compart pork, it's so marbled full of fat. Moisture is not an issue. You're adding that extra flavor, I think. At least I'm looking for.
I would disagree, and my teammates will tell you that if anybody can take a perfectly beautiful, thick, juicy, fatty rib and turn it into a string of dry bones, it's me. I can patent a process for just burning the fat out of some beautiful ribs. I've ruined more beautiful ribs than I care to count. Injection does help, in my opinion. So why do we inject, right? We're trying to put some flavor in there, but we're also trying to raise the pH. And what does the pH do when we raise it? It creates, I should know this by now, I think it's negative ions. It creates a structure that water molecules can combine to, and those water molecules are less likely to boil out when you're cooking. Free water is going to go. Okay, so when you inject that, most of that stuff's going to go. But when you raise the pH, you get more water that has a loose bond in there that's less likely to cook out. And we're trying to keep that moisture in there so that when judges bite into it, that they get a juicy bite because nobody likes a dry rib. And my team reminds me of that all the time.
So phosphates, you're talking about phosphates here, correct?
Yes.
So phosphates are something important to add to your injection, is what you're saying.
It depends on what injection product you're using. Every commercial injection product out there that I've come across already has phosphates in it. You can use too much. I don't know how much it would take, but I was told that if you put enough phosphates in there, phosphates plus fat plus heat, you end up making soap. You can, just like salt or sugar, you can overdo it with anything, right? But the commercial products that are out there, I'm sure that all of them would put their research into it, that if you follow their instructions, you're going to get about as much, you're going to raise the pH about as much as you possibly can before you start reaching a point of diminishing returns.
Robert, I think we have a new professor that we can call professor now. Robert's always called Robert the professor, and Chiles is coming in hot here with some very interesting details for y'all. So y'all please listen. Robert Burnett or Burtnett, I'm going to come back to that question for Bill later. Because we'll talk resting later and how and what we do in the rest later. Are we pushing ribs? All right. So so let's go to the next one. How many racks of ribs are y'all cooking? And is there a reason why you do it? Or is it just something that we got 4 racks of ribs for Chiles?
4.
4 for Bill?
4.
4 for Robert. Okay. Why is the special number 4 for everybody?
For me, it fits on my cooker.
Same. Fits on the drum.
Exactly.
Too hard.
I'd cook more if I had the room.
Okay. So that seems to be the thought process is you fill up your smoker. And is it something that on your smoker you're worried about airflow for the way that you have everything in there? Or is it just something that you want to make sure that you do the same every time you cook? Or is it something different?
I think for me, it's doing the same thing every time. If you try to put 2 on a drum, they cook a lot faster, it seems like. Or I always trim them down to 9 bones and always run 4. So.
I was going to ask, are y'all all cooking 9 bones, or does it matter the bones, or you weigh in the ribs, the whole slabs, or?
I try to go with 10 bones. To me, I've got that much room at that point in my cook because I'm only cooking on one cooker. So I have enough room for 2 racks of ribs, and my recipe is dialed in. How much injection I take with me, how much rub I take with me, how much wrap that I put in. All the ingredients are all pretty much dialed in for contest to contest to contest, and I'm looking for a repeatable process.
That's one thing that I messed up one time. I went to a contest, and I brought an extra pork butt, or something happened. And I brought the same amount of injection I always used and everything else. And I get to go and inject. I was like, well, crap, I've screwed this up, So, but it was eye-opening to me. It's like, man, if you're come prepared for one thing, and if you throw any kind of wrench at it, it screws up everything. Justin Holt says using higher pH water for injections has helped him lately. And I know everybody talks about why do people use the same water? Why does it matter what bottle of water you use? And I think that is one reason why people do it is the pH in the water is going to be the same in the bottled water that you use every time. So it matters, right? I guess it doesn't.
I'm Deer Park or Smart Water. Travis Clark was the one that turned me on to Smart Water when I took his class because he said that it is the most consistent in pH from bottle to bottle, according to some study that he read. And that got me kind of thinking a little bit. And so if I'm adding phosphates to something that's already got a pH, you might as well start something that's fairly stable and known, right?
Yep, that would be my thought process.
Yeah, we use the same. We use Smart Water for that same reason. It's consistent. It's consistent. So
readily available also.
Yep.
I'll give you another reason to use smart water. When I'm doing doubles, I buy the 32 ounce, the larger smart water bottles. After I'm done using all that, making all my injections for day 2 of my competition, I put my injections back into those smart water bottles. They're very sturdy. They're very stout. I can tell you after flying my injections to King of the Smokers twice and all the things that can possibly happen, there's nothing easier than going from day 1 to day 2 than taking a smart water bottle, opening it up, pouring it into your injection bottle, and throwing it away and not having to worry about washing something.
Yeah. Robert, what do you think about over there? You look like you're in deep thought.
No, I use Deer Park water usually because that's ready available here. So, but I've used other water too.
You're the rebel. Love that. Cooking wood. What kind of wood preferences do you think, or do you think that matters?
For me, it's hickory. That's all I use because I cook the ribs in the stick burner. So I'm mainly just using charcoal and hickory wood.
Nice.
Hickory.
I'm straight on charcoal. We don't use any wood with the ribs.
There you go. If you use wood, it's just straight charcoal wood, right? Awesome. So that's great questions, Mark. Thank you all. It's kind of funny. Everybody keeps talking about how ribs are costing them GCs. All right. So, Robert, I would like for you to see if you can't take the show over and ask some questions now.
What?
Yeah, that was in the agenda. I sent it out earlier today. I know everybody else got it. Did you not get that?
No, I didn't.
Happens every time.
Shoot. I don't know. So trying to think where we're at in the process. So everybody said they're doing hickory, I think, except for Bill is doing lump charcoal. What kind of lump charcoal are you using, Bill?
I use timber, which is a brown bag that's readily available here. So.
All right. What about rubs? Do you guys rub on Friday? Are you rubbing on Saturday? Start with Chiles, I guess.
Rub goes on the back side at 7, the top side at 7:30. They're in the smoker at 8. Personal preference. I found that any sooner than that, I don't know if it dries out the top side of the ribs or if it just makes it a little hammy. But I found that as thin as the ribs are, they don't need more than an hour of sweating.
Yeah, I would agree. We'll start with rub on the back sides 35, 40 minutes before they go on. As soon as it kind of sets up, we'll set them right on a rack and do the top sides and then carry it to the smoker. So
you go straight to the smoker
No, they may sit on the counter for 15 minutes. You know, we'll have them ready, and then when it's rib time, they go on. So
yeah, and we're basically the same. We start putting rub on the backside an hour before, and then 30 minutes after we flip them over and do the tops. Of course, I know somebody that used to always do good in the Memphis area, and he used to save his Wonder Bread bags from Wonder Bread, and he used to put his ribs in there and rub them on Friday night and wrap them in a Wonder Bread wrapper. And he used to always be in the top 5 in ribs, always.
Man,
I tried it, didn't work for me. Plus, now that we're keto, we don't eat bread, right?
That'd be tough. That's a tough thing to worry about. So rubs. Speaking of rubs, you don't have to tell us what rubs you're using, so I'm not asking for that. But if you don't mind telling a type of rub that you're using, and when you're thinking about rubs on ribs, what is the mindset or what is the thought process that goes into the rubs you're using for ribs? Whatever.
Not too salty. If I'm going to put salt on, it's going to be at the very end when I'm finishing them. So I don't want a lot of salt in my rubs. I'm looking for something that's sweet. I think everybody, fewer people would be offended by a sweet rub than they would be that's something really hot. It does have to have some heat. Everybody talks about balance, but I'm still struggling to find that front end heat that when you first bite into it, that it pops when you get it, and then you get a nice heat at the end. and everything in between I want to be savory.
Nice. Bill, what's your thoughts?
Heavy smoke white label, topped with a little bit of smoke and ghost, all purpose.
Okay.
Rub.
Okay, there you go. You heard it, right? Like you even heard me say, you don't have to tell us what you're using, but Bill, as awesome as he is, comes on. He's like, you know what, Brian, you're the best ever. Here you go. Here's your secret. So that's white label and smoke and ghost. Incredible. Thank you so much for that awesome take. Now, Robert, what do you think?
I think I'm not probably the opposite of Chiles. I think mine is more salty. I go more savory, salty, very little sugar in mine. Only because otherwise on my cooker it'll get way too dark. So I try to stick with the less sugar as possible because all my sweet I'm adding at the finishing. So, or majority of it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, if you're in a stick burner, you've got what I would consider a very violent cooking area because you've got a lot of heat rushing across there. Whereas in mine, my rotisserie, it's kind of just, I don't have to worry about any extreme heat changes or anything like that. So yeah, if I was cooking on an offset or a stick burner, I think I would be using less sugar than I'm using in my rubs right now. It's a very good point that your cooking style does make a difference in what rubs you use.
100%. All right, so I'm hearing a lot of things. I'm going to ask the question about wrapping, everybody. I'm trying to get to it. When you're thinking about the heat and the savory and the sweetness and everything else, what do you try? So, Chiles, it looks like you're trying to get some of the heat out of the rubs. Robert, you're going more savory with the rubs. Bill, you're going everything. You just told us that. What is the process that you're trying to use with your wrapping process? I'm assuming you all wrap. Yes. Okay, everybody wraps. What are you trying to gain in that wrapping process? Is that something that you're trying to add sweetness to? Are you trying to just keep it moist? What are you trying to do in that wrapping process, Bill?
I don't know what we're trying, how to answer that exactly. I mean, we're trying to keep the moisture in them. We're trying to get the color, I think, to balance through them versus how they come off the cooker. And then part of it, we're making an au jus that we can use, to finish them with. So
awesome. So no sweetness in there. No. So when you said color,
there's a sweetness in there. It's like liquid.
So when you say color, I guess I need to back up. At what point in time are y'all wrapping? When do you know to wrap? Is it straight timeline? Is it color? Is it the rub setting? I think this is something that everybody differs in. So what do you think? What do you think in your rubbing or your wrapping? When do you wrap? Chiles, I'll let you start there.
So if I've made any improvements to my program with my ribs, it's probably been by wrapping earlier. I used to chase color. I used to let it go longer and longer. I would spray with apple juice, trying to get more color. It would freak me out when I would go in and dump my wrap, and I would see all this rub going into the container, through the screen of the fat separator. I was chasing color, and I was ending up with dry ribs. If I wrap before the moisture starts bubbling up on the top of the ribs, as soon as it has color, if you can take your finger and you can scratch it and that color is adhering to the meat part of the ribs, it's never really going to adhere to the fat. But once that is set, I'm ready to wrap. Usually the temperature is about 150 to 160 degrees. And what are we doing when we're wrapping? In my opinion, we're braising. Okay. It's no longer getting any more smoke. Once it's wrapped, the color that's on it, it's not going to get any darker from there unless you've got a lot of sugar and you put a lot of heat to it. If you've got a lot of sugar and you put a lot of heat to it, you're going to get darker ribs. So I'm locking in my color and I'm braising them and steaming them and I'm softening up that meat, and I'm locking in that moisture because it's no longer, that moisture is not allowed to escape. I wrap those things super, super tight. As a matter of fact, if you're interested, Randy took a time lapse video of me wrapping my ribs this past weekend. That is absolutely awesome. I've got it on. I can send it to you right now if you want to play it, but it's only a 30-second clip. So we wrap them to braise them. I'm doing that more for moisture than I am for anything else. I no longer care if I lose all of my color because I know I can fix it when I put my sauce back on it and I put them in at the end to finish it. I can fix bark. I can't fix moisture. So they go in at 8 o'clock. Between 9:30 and 9:45, depending upon the temperature of the ribs and the color, to a certain degree, I'm wrapping then, and they're done usually about 11:35, 11:40.
Okay. Perfect. Bill?
We're pretty much on a timeline, as far as wrapping it. We're about 2 hours on the can before we wrap, but if they start to get dark or something looks off to me, we'll wrap early. I very seldom go longer, but just depending on the situation, we have wrapped it an hour and a half. If the drum ran hot and they're getting dark, we'll get them wrapped. So
nice. Robert?
Yeah, we wrap at a certain time, but that's all based on practice and knowing what the color of the ribs are at that time. I'd say we're close to the 2 hour mark where we're wrapping, but it's all based on a color that I want the ribs to be. And they always usually, for me, lighten up in the wrap a little bit, which is always a good thing. Because when I sauce and put it back on, they usually always get a little darker anyway.
Nice. All right. So wrapping, don't tell me what you're using. Don't tell me what you're using. But approximately, what kind of products are you putting in your wrap? Is it the same butter, brown sugar, honey kind of thing that has been around forever, the tiger sauce and all that kind of stuff? Or is it something, has that changed since the beginning? Robert, you're over there shaking your head. So what would your wrap hypothetically look like with
I miss tiger sauce. That stuff was the bomb back in the day. I miss that. No, but we started out.
Excuse me, maybe the number 2 team in ribs right now still uses it.
Okay. Oh, there you go.
There you go.
We used to always use the brown sugar, the honey, and the Parquet. And then we stopped once these barbecue league videos came out, and we started to add some more acidic type things. And I started to see a lot more blowouts on my ribs, especially at the temp I was cooking on my cooker and for how long they were in that sort of acidic environment. So I had a lot more blowouts. So I stopped doing that, went back to Parquet, brown sugar, and honey, and some other liquids, and I'm better. I'm back on track now, I think.
There we go. Some other liquids. I love that. Bill?
We're pretty simple. I mean, it's sugar, honey, butter, some liquids, and I can't say it's liquids.
Andrew will kill you if you keep going any further, right?
That's right. We do use turbinado instead of brown sugar.
Is that a drum thing, or is that something that you think is different? I mean,
we were having trouble with getting. I don't want to say tarry, but like the brown sugar would burn on us a little bit in the wrap, so we went to using turbinado for that reason. So I think a lot of drum guys do. Well,
yeah, y'all keep talking. I'm gonna try to pull up this that Chiles just sent me. Chiles, what do you put in your?
The best
not what you put in it, but what I'm talking about.
The first year that I ever really did well in ribs, we were using Heath Ryle's. 2 things were going on at that time. We started using Heath Ryle's Butter Bath, and that is it's a phenomenal product. It's easy to use. The only thing that prevented me from still using it today is that instead of using Parquet, he uses like a Butter Buds thing. And I had a couple comments that kind of tasted, they tasted a movie popcorn taste. Okay, and I don't know if he still has that in there, but I mean, we scored great with it. I was looking for the next edge up. So I took everything that we were putting in wraps before, because he gave me an idea that, you could make a slurry. And the slurry has tiger sauce. It's got some Cosmos apple habanero, one of his products in there. It's got for 32 ounces, 1.25 cups of brown sugar, honey. There's a couple other products to go. It's got some apple juice in it. Anyway, I put it all into a measuring cup. It comes up to 32 ounces. I use an immersion blender and blend it, and it goes into a bottle. And if you get the video down and you're able to share it, you see where we just squirt it on, put more of our rub on, put the ribs down, squirt it on the back with the same slurry, and then we hit it with parquet. People ask me why I don't use natural butter. Natural butter, to me, I think it burns at a lower temperature than parquet does. And it also can leave a slightly oily texture, I guess, to your palate. So we use parquet, and then we wrap them tight because I want to steam them in that packet.
Awesome. Let me see. I'm working here. Let me see. I got it pulled up. Let me try this. So give me a second here. Here we go. Let's see if this works. Just thinking. Is it shared yet? Not yet. It's still going. It's coming up, guys. We're gonna give me a second here. Bill, what exact amount of sauces are you using? I'd like to finish my new recipe off.
I'll call you later, Jordan.
Oh, come on.
Were you able to download it?
Yeah, it's playing on my other screen here. I don't know. Let me keep working on this. I'll get it pulled up in a second. It's going to show. As soon as we stop, it's going to start working. But anyway, all right.
Jordan's asking for stuff. He's the one that 180 ribs this weekend, I believe. So.
Yeah. So Jordan, why don't you tell us something about that we should be asking, or that they should be asking you, and we'll go from there. So there's been a lot of, like somebody said on here, liquid equals bourbon. Too funny. Using cheer wine, and I know some people use lemon drop or sun drop or whatever that stuff's called. What is the thought process of putting in some of these extra Coke or whatever you want to call it?
I'm going to guess, and I'm going to say it's sweet, it's citric acid, it's moisture that is going to steam up inside there, and it's going to soften the bark that you just worked so hard to create, but it's probably going to create a better mouth texture.
I would say all of the above. And, we do use a soda. It's not Sun Drop or any of those, but to me, it creates that steam and it adds flavor. The one we're using has a lot of flavor to it. So.
Very nice. I have no clue what's going on my computer now. Gotta love it. So that's all. So how long generally is there a wrap process, a wrap time that you want to keep it in there? Or are you going for a temperature? What's the thoughts on that? Chris Schaefer's watching. Look at that.
I mean, we're going for a feel, not really a temperature.
Okay.
There's a time when we start checking, but sometimes they're done, and most of the time they're not. So I don't ever even use a probe on ribs. It's all how they bend and and the appearance of them.
If I were doing a bend test on ribs, I'd probably be a better cook. I'm going by temperature. I know what I'm looking for as far as when I start checking them. And then I'll open up the rib package and I'll probe and, kind of like a toothpick, putting it in there and seeing how much resistance there is based on what I feel. If I don't like what I feel, and I wrap them back up and I put them back in. If I open it up and I see 3 bones blown out, I'm pretty sure that I've pushed them as far as I can push them. And that doesn't happen very often. But what I like to see when I open them up, and Donnie Bray taught me this, if you see one bone, the big bone, completely blown out, and one or two beside it that are partially blown out, you're pretty darn close. And I don't know if that's perfect. I don't, I can tell you that it just going by that alone has done pretty well for us if you have no other indicators other than that. But I think the bend test, the best rib cooks I know do well with the bend test.
Gotcha. Y'all keep going. Robert,
I think our ribs turned around this past, like in 2021 mid-season. I was doing the temperature and trying to shoot for a certain temperature all the time. And when I quit doing that and just left the thermal pin away and started doing the bend test, and our scores went up dramatically.
Awesome. What the heck is RVM Blanco?
I don't know.
Fred, tell us what that is. Go ahead, Robert. What were you going to say?
Yeah, I think we're going. I know I go by feel mainly first, but just in the last year and a half, I've been sort of trying to back that up with looking at the temp as well, just checking it out. And I notice if we're in the 208 to 210 range, we're usually getting a call in ribs. I don't know. That's just on my cooking the way I cook. So I don't know if that's has anything to do with it. I just noticed we've been in that sort of sweet spot every time we're getting a call.
You guys ever notice that when you're cooking at altitude, that number goes down a little bit? That you may never get to 209, 210, and 208 might be the sweet spot?
I don't know. I'm never really cooking at any kind of altitude that makes a difference.
That's why I don't tell.
But I've recognized anyway.
Bill, you cook all over. What do you think?
I don't know because I don't tempt the ribs. So, like I said, it's all on feel. And when I open the wrap, I can visually tell, like Chiles says, if you got one that's starting to blow out, or what the telltale for me is if I open it up and I can still see some of the like butter solids or whatever floating in there, they're not done. There's no reason to me even picking them up. So, and there's a certain hit of aroma I get off of them when I open them up when they're done. If I don't get that, they're not done. So a lot of times I can open them up, peek inside, and I don't even have to feel them. I know they're not done. So, but that just comes with cooking.
One of these days, I'm going to be able to do that. That's amazing, right? Like, so all three of y'all are, you just know, right? Like, you just know exactly what it is that you're looking for, what you're smelling, what you're feeling for. And once it's there, you're good, right? That's pretty awesome. All right, I'm going to try this again. If it goes away, Robert, they don't call this the Dollar Tree for nothing, right? So we're going to do our best here. All right, let's try this one more time. Because it's really interesting. I've been watching it, and it's really interesting. Oh, Lord have mercy.
This is tech you haven't tried before, isn't it?
Yeah, like I don't normally get put on the spot like this. It's still not working. Screw it. All right. Screw it. I'm gonna watch it, and then you know what I could probably do? Can you do this, Charles? Can you send it in the comments on this, and I can share the comment on here?
Because it's coming from my Dropbox, probably not.
Okay.
It's going to be on probably as soon as we're done here. I'm going to put it up on my stories page. So just look for it there. And what it is, Randy did a time lapse. It takes us 1 minute and 30 seconds to wrap each rack of ribs. And when he did the time lapse, it condensed it down to about 25 seconds. And it just shows how simple it is. When you're using a slurry, all of the ingredients are pre-measured out, mixed up. We put it in the immersion blender, and we use what they call first in, first out bottles. If you've ever been to a Subway and you've watched how they put stuff on your sandwich, we use those bottles. So it's just as simple as squeezing everything on there. And how we judge the amount, we actually do it by coverage. So we'll put our ribs down. I'll look at the size of the ribs, and I'll just take my fingers in the aluminum foil and create an outline about how the size is. And we squirt down just enough to cover that rectangle. We put the ribs down. One thing that I do, again, this came from Donnie Bray, because at the time he was tearing it up, Warren County pork choppers and ribs. He would use the back of a magic marker and he would push the meat down around the bones to start that pullback process for no other reason so that they pull back evenly for appearance. So I'm using the hot gloves. I'm pulling them back by hand. Then we put more of the slurry on the backside. We put a real heavy line of parquet, some more rub on the back. And then you see how I fold the foil to get that package super tight. It takes us 1 minute and 30 seconds in the trailer per rack. On the video, it's 25 seconds long.
Yep, that's a 25-second video. I can tell you that. That's about all I got, Robert. Here we go once again. Wouldn't be a good show if I didn't screw something up, right? Chiles, who's your boudin supply? Where's your boudin come from?
Boudin comes from Brad DuPont. Was that Brad that asked?
Yes.
A self-serving question?
Yes, it was.
It was? Okay, yeah. So Ronnie's Boudin in Cridlin. Met him when I was down at Johnny Trigg's class back in, I think it was 2014. I asked Johnny where the best place was to get boudin while I was down there. He said, go to that gas station. It looks like an old gas station up the street. Went in there and got some boudin and loved it. And I inquired about getting some shipped. And Brad asked me what I was doing in town. I told him I was taking a barbecue class. And he said that he always wanted to grow up one day and be a barbecue cook. I'm just kidding. That was just for Brad's benefit. Anyway, we've been buying boudin from him and get it shipped to Virginia. You can ask Robert. I don't know if Robert, that was the first time you had. Did you have one of the kolaches in class?
No, I'm on keto, so
yeah, I was told.
But I've had his keto boudin before, and it's pretty darn good.
Yeah,
very good. Everything he sells,
it's good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I really do like it. Schaefer. Bill.
Jim, you don't need enemies.
That's oh Lord. All right, so we've gone through the wrap process. We've gone through the how you know when you're done. When do you sauce in? What kind of sauce? So once that rib is out of the wrap, is it done? Or are you trying to put it back on the smoker for a little bit of time, or what are we doing?
To me, the biggest thing I've learned in the last couple of years is it's not what you do when you're cooking it. It's how you hold it afterwards. Do I have 10 minutes or do I have an hour before it needs to go to the judge? And I found that venting it and letting it cool a little bit and then returning it to the Kcbs at a temperature where it doesn't still keep cooking makes a big difference on the product that ultimately gets to the judge's table. I call the holding the second half of the cook.
Okay. So you're approximately, how long do you like to have a rest time?
Well, if everything works as planned, the ribs are done at about 11:45. So that gives me about 20 or 30 minutes, while I'm working with chicken that they're going to be holding. I vent them for a little while to let them cool down a little bit. Then it depends on the outside temperature. If it's cold outside, they're going to go into the Kcbs with everything else. If it's a really nice, hot, warm day, I might set them back on top of the smoker to keep them warm that way. There's a kind of variable. The difference between following the timeline and cooking is trying to figure out how much time I have and what's the best way to hold them so I can make sure that the best product is presented when I go to turn it in.
Nice. Robert, what's your hold recommendation?
For me, I don't really hold it that long. We're usually unwrapping pretty close to when chicken's being sauced, like 10, 15 minutes before chicken turn in, we're unwrapping sauce and ribs. We don't take them off until after probably about 12, 10. And then I rest them maybe for about 10 minutes or so.
Okay.
Usually. I don't really rest that long.
All right.
Any of my meats, really.
Yeah. Bill?
We're usually off around 11. give or take. So, and then depending on if I overshoot them or they're just right, will depend on how long I vent them. Usually vent them just a few minutes when they go in the Cambro. So
that's my problem. I don't think I've vent mine long enough. Yeah. See, I'm learning something. I hope y'all are too. And all right, so Chiles, do you have anything you want to ask these guys during this process through all this?
Not about ribs, but I got to thank Bill again for saving me at the World Invitational for letting me borrow his leaf blower.
Sounds like a fire issue.
you cook on drones, you got a leaf blower.
This was during ancillaries, and we had a gathering for some. We had turkey smoke folks over and some of the Smithfield folks over. I got a little distracted, and pork chops turn-ins were coming. Well, we lit the grill for doing the pork chops. I didn't open up the vent on the top, and the fire was going out. So I'm in there, getting the pork chops ready to go on. I asked somebody to check the grill and see if it was up to 475, 500 degrees. Barry comes back and looks at me and said, Chiles, it's at 250 and dropping. And this was 35 minutes before turn-ins. So the joke is that I've got I finally run over and asked Bill for his leaf blower and grab it from him. I've got one hand I'm turning pork chops, the other hand I'm running a leaf blower. The other guys are trying to hold the other vents on the grill, and that was the best call we got all weekend. Anyway, he saved me.
Leave it to Bill. He's always there to help everybody. What a great guy. I mean,
yeah. Someday I'm going to need to return the favor. So
I'm happy to do it. And thank you for hosting Cook's Church on Sunday too.
Hey, anytime.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So Bill, do you have any questions you want to ask Robert or Chiles?
Not really. I mean, they've kind of given the information I was thinking about already. So,
all right. So now we're almost done. When do you sauce? How long do you sauce? Do you sauce? Is it a quick thing? I know some people do 30 minutes, some do 2 or 3. What are your all's thoughts?
We're on for about 3 to 4 minutes, after we sauce them, just to set it a little bit. But I slice them first, sauce them, and then put them back on. And then they're pretty much going right in the box after that.
Okay. So. Robert?
Yeah, we're saucing right after we unwrap. And then I put them back on the cooker probably for about 15, 20 minutes.
Okay.
And that's usually all we might touch up some sauce there at the end and finishing, but that's about it.
All right, Chiles.
So mine come out of the wrap. They get sauced. They get some dust. They go back in the smoker with a handful of wood chips because I want to, get a little bit of dirty smoke on there, just because I don't think that running pure charcoal at that point in the cook that I want another little punch of smoky flavor. They don't go in there long though, maybe 5 minutes, just long enough to get the sauce tacky. Come out, cut them up, and then I mix my sauce with some of my au jus, if you will. I don't remember whether it was Bill or Robert that mentioned that they saved their pork wrapping liquid, and I don't know if it's for the same reason I do. But I like to paint the sides of my ribs. I mix my sauce with a little bit of the au jus that comes out of the wrap, and I paint the sides, the cut edges, put them back together, and get them ready for boxing.
Do exactly this.
Bill, I wasn't going to ask, but is that what you do?
Pretty close. You want to see our finish process? We got a video on Barbecue League from the World Invitational. So you can go on there and watch us in the trailer at rib turn-in. You can see it all.
Perfect. Awesome. Robert, will you keep asking a couple questions about finishing? I'm going to have to shut down this again and come back. But will you take that over for me?
Yes, I'll try, sir.
How you're the best.
So I think one of the things that I think a lot of people want to know, I think somebody asked one here. So you're cutting before you sauce,
yes.
Bill? And
Yep.
are you brushing or are you dipping the ribs in something?
I'm brushing. I mean, I put it in a solo cup, kind of pour it on, and then brush it.
Gotcha. How about you, Chiles?
I use a solo cup and mix the au jus with the sauce, and I brush it.
Okay. All right. So, and everybody's using, I think everybody's using some kind of finishing rub. Are you grounding up that finishing rub? Are you using it right out of the shaker? Bill?
Ours is ground fine. So
Ours is our pork rub. We grind it. We use a coffee grinder, grind it to a fine powder, and we grind it. That's the last thing I do after I make my injections before I start finishing or before I finish packing the trailer, because it can get clumpy pretty quick.
That's right. And what do you think's the benefit of grinding it versus just spreading it straight from the shaker?
If straight from the shaker, if it's the commercial grind that you get from the spice companies, it's not going to dissolve enough. I think it's going to be gritty when the judge goes to bite into it. When you grind it fine, it releases all those oils, and when you put it on top of the sauce, it's just going to dissolve right in. The judge will get all the flavor, but they're not going to get the any grittiness of spices that haven't softened up.
I agree. That's why we grind it fine too. I mean, we sauce them, put the finished dust on them, and then they go back in to set it just a little bit, and like I say, go straight to the box pretty much from there. So, but you don't want that heavy grit, on your ribs.
And I think you're right. I think that's the biggest fear, to having some kind of gritty, grainy feeling when they bite the rib. How about sauce? Are you guys heating up your sauce pretty hot? Are you doing it room temp? Bill?
I'm room temp.
I'm at 120 degrees when I dip chicken, just because that's when I get the best coverage. I don't know how much it cools down by the time I get to ribs.
Okay, I think we heat up ours a little. It's not too far above room temp, but it's got a little bit of warmth to it. Just so usually if it's too hot, it just runs off too quick.
That's right.
I like to have some kind of coverage on there, especially if I'm following it with finishing dust or something like that. That way I can have some of that equal savory versus the sweet from the sauce. You ready to take over, Brian?
No, you're doing great.
No, man, I'm good.
I'm just sitting here watching. I'm like, man, this guy is
shoot.
I mean, he is good. He is good. All right. So, do what?
Because he's got an agenda.
He does.
Secret agenda.
And if I don't have, he's always got an agenda. So real quick, and I know we've already run over time, but I think this is kind of important. Spritz or no spritz? That's not what I was going to ask, but do y'all spritz?
Water.
Nope.
Water now. I've tried just about everything. I start off with Parquet. No, I can't believe it's not butter. Just this past competition, I started spritzing with just water because I wanted to see what the effects were. So I might be going back to just I can't believe it's not butter, but it's going to be either I can't believe it's not butter or water. I can't believe it's not butter. Or if it needs more color, I'll do apple juice.
Is that sugar in there? Caramelized.
Harkin's quick thing. Yeah.
All right. So last question, and I think this is very important. The tenderness game. So we started out the show talking about Jacob with Chiles, and Chiles is on it, and it seems to be a big trend to judges going this direction, Lord willing. So Chiles, I know there's a section in there that tells the judges how to take a bite of the rib, correct?
That is correct.
You want to explain, and the reason I'm asking this is so you know where to try to get the tenderness from. So go ahead and roll with it.
I'll share my story real quick. So this goes back many years ago when I was doing a test cook, and I had Tuffy Stone, I had Bill Jones, I had Glenn Zobel from Love and Smoke, and John Bush, who's a 30 plus year KCBS rep at the time. And we did 4 different racks of ribs, treated it like a KCBS turn in. And they chose which one was their favorite. And they unanimously, there was one brand, because I was cooking 4 different brands of ribs, and that's what I was looking for, what I was going to run with. We went back into the trailer, and I pulled out the second rack that I did not give them so we could talk about it more. And, using this as an example, I watched Tuffy Stone pick it up and bite it from the thick end in the back. Okay. Then I watched Bill Jones and Glenn Zobel bite it from the side in the middle. And I watched John Bush pick it up and had kind of a corn cob approach and bit it from the exposed bone in the end. Tuffy gave me a 9 on tenderness from the thick end. Bill and Glenn gave me 8s on tenderness from biting in the middle. And John Bush gave me a 7 from biting on the exposed bone end. And teams always wondered, how can I turn in 6 of the same bones from the same rack and I get different tenderness scores? Well, it might be because of where the judge decided to take that bite. So the KCBS judging procedure, and that's the word I want to impress upon you guys, is that we want the judge, if they are going to take only one bite, that we want them to take it from near the center of the middle. If they're going to take a second bite, we're asking them to take it from the other side in the center of the middle. Now, a judge can take as many bites as they want. They can eat the whole rib, and if they do, they would take a composite score of their experience from the first bite to the last. But for consistency, the judging procedure is, and this goes for all meats but pork, that we're saying that the judging procedure is that if they're going to take just one bite, to take it from near the center and on the side and all the way to the bone. We're just hoping that makes for a more consistent judging experience, maybe more consistent scoring, and gives the teams a little bit of a benefit of understanding, hey, if you got 3 different tenderness scores from the same rack of ribs, maybe it was from where they took the bite. What I learned from this is that I don't turn in 6-inch bones anymore when I'm in a contest. I'm looking for the shorter the rib, the better, to minimize that opportunity for where they're going to take that first bite. Now with J-Cup, with over 700 judges that have completed that now, and as that continues to roll out, it may not be as big of a deal, but in my mind, it was a pretty big deal after watching 3 very respected people that are in our field give me different experiences just because of where they took their first bite.
So the other 2, does that change the way that you're looking for tenderness on a rib? Does that do anything, or is that just something that you already know?
No, I'm not going to cook them any different. When I'm looking for tenderness, first I will tell you that I was looking for a juicy, very tender rib where the meat didn't fall off the bone. In my experience, judges want a little bit, and this is just my experience. This is not KCBS. This is not J-Cup or anything else. My best scores have come from ribs that have a little bit of a snap to them. When you bite into them, you see your tooth marks around where you took that bite, and you had to tug just a teeny bit to pull it away from the bone. That's been the best scoring ribs that I've gotten. If you bite into it and any meat from either side of where you bit into comes off with it, or it wasn't, you didn't get a slight tug from it, excuse me, then our tenderness scores seem to go down a little bit.
Robert, Bill, what do you think?
I guess I've always thought that judges would take a bite from the middle because that's where I would always take one. So that's kind of how I've always cooked it. I'm glad they're training them that way now.
Yeah, I know this is a rib discussion. Of course, we didn't know that, Bill, until the beginning, right? We thought it was brisket.
That's right.
But going back to what you said, where they bite the middle of the rib and they're instructed that way in the J-Cup, you did say they talk about chicken as well?
Yes.
As far as the chicken thigh? I only said that because we did a practice here about 4 or 5 weeks ago with about 12 judges, and 2 judges hit me on gristle. And I'm like, where the heck are they finding gristle on my chicken? To find out, they had actually bit from the end of a chicken thigh. So they must have got a hold of some of that cartilage at the end. I have no idea. Yeah, but I'm like, gristle?
with the chicken thighs, the Kcbs judging procedure, again, your first bite should be perpendicular to the bone on the meatiest side of the sample.
That's a good thing.
So now remember that, if a judge wants to eat that whole thing and they find a piece of gristle there on their last bite, it's all fair game. You put it in the box. Okay. And I've got a ton of respect for our judges because more often than not, I'm a pretty consistent cook and my scores are very similar from contest to contest. If I make a change, I start seeing changes in my scores. But so keep in mind, anything you put in the box is fair game. But for chicken, ribs, and brisket, the Kcbs judging procedure, we tell them where they should take their first bite.
Are they still allowed to use the fork to pick up a rib?
We did not address the fork situation.
Okay. Just curious.
So, well, I mean, that was a pretty big deal. I can tell you that we had some edits that went into the Kcbs J-Cup videos where, because a lot of the footage came from different contests, and we saw people using forks to pick up things. If you're going to use a fork and it's provided with the box, we think that the fork should be used to reach under the rib and scoop it up and aid in you pulling it out of the box. Same thing with the brisket slice, right? You can, here's your brisket slice, use the fork to get behind it and pull it out. Do we want to see somebody stabbing it? That's not unless it's my rib, because my ribs are usually tough and stabbing it with a fork isn't going to do anything but help it. So it's okay if it's my box. But by and large, I think teams have the right to have their product judged as presented. Stabbing it with a fork sometimes can have not good effects when you're trying to remove things from a box.
Seems like that would change the integrity of the meat. I know that we're not getting into all that. So that being said, awesome show. I hope y'all don't have any more questions. Robert he's halfway asleep right now. I know Lex has already texted me and said, "Hey, Robert's got to go to bed. He's tired." So real quick, just to recap everything, you're getting what are you trying to accomplish with your sauce? Are you trying to accomplish one of the major flavor profiles, or is that for looks, or like what is the thoughts on the sauce? Love you, Lex. You're awesome. What is the sauce goal? Because we already talked about your rub and the wrap. Well, unless y'all talked about it when I was out. What is the sauce's job or whatever?
I think for me, I would say a lot of my heat comes from my sauce.
Okay.
And the sweetness, right? I said most of my rub is more of a savory. Majority of my heat is coming from the sauce and the sweetness, obviously.
Okay. Awesome.
So you're using the sauce to enhance the flavor you've already put down. So, whatever you're missing, with your rubs and your cooking process, that's what your goal is to add with the sauce that you use.
Yeah.
For me, I mean, this is a meat contest. I put sauce on, but I use it pretty sparingly. I want just enough so that the judges can tell that it's there, but I want that meat to be able to shine through. So I'm going to go. That's why I use the au jus out of my wrap on the sides, along with a little bit of sauce. It's going to add some sweet. It's going to add some heat. It's going to have some flavor to it. But I want the judges to taste that meat first and foremost.
Awesome. Y'all are the best. I know this has been a lot of going at us tonight. It's been very informative. Chiles, I thank you for trying to send me the link, and I just butchered that a couple times tonight. But as Robert would say, it's a Dollar Tree show and low budget. So we're trying our best over here at the Chewin the BBQ Fat. But thank you all so much for coming on tonight. Robert, what is something that you would like to end the show with from your perspective?
Absolutely nothing,
You-
except that I need to go to bed. No, I'm happy to be on with these guys. I know I noticed you got the first in the team of the year, second, and you had to drop all the way to 8th to me. What happened to 3rd through 7th? They wouldn't come on.
Robert, I just love it when you come on.
Yeah.
Opportunity I can to have you come on the show.
That's because you like to put me on the spot. That's what it is.
We don't mess around here at the Chewin the BBQ Fat. Bill, how would you like to leave it for this, guys?
I'm good. I'm kind of like Robert. I'm about ready to go to bed. So.
Oh gosh,
We got the old man on tonight, man. We got to.
It was a long weekend cooking a double and then working all day today. So.
Whew. Chiles, help me out here. Anything?
No, thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it. And I'm sorry for putting you on that spot with the video at the last minute. So
No. Anybody else
time.
could probably make it happen. All those other good shows out there, they could probably make it happen. But you came here and I butchered it. So I will see if we can. Next time we'll do a better job. But y'all, thank you so much for coming on. How can they get in touch with you? And then we'll get rid of it we'll end the show after that. Charles, what's the best way to get in touch with you if anybody has any questions?
Either Chiles at wolfsrevengebbq.com, through Facebook. I'm always checking it. You can message me directly there.
Awesome. Bill?
Probably Facebook, either at my personal page or at Triple H Barbecue.
Now, do you manage that or does somebody else manage that?
I do, but Andrea posts on it once in a while too. So,
my man Robert.
Hey, Facebook for us. Won't be silly.
What about
we're probably on the other platforms too, but I don't. That's Lex. So
what about Silly Barbecue Life?
Silly Barbecue Life when I used to do videos.
Is
you
that
want to check
back?
those out? I think they're okay. Maybe one day I'll start back up.
Okay, so it's not back yet.
No.
Awesome. Thank y'all so much for a wonderful night. Y'all are awesome. Next week we're gonna be talking pork. Don't know who's coming on yet, but I'm gonna make sure we get some of the best ones out there. So thank you so much for everything, and y'all are the best. And I will see you next week on Chewin the BBQ Fat. Thanks a lot, guys.